The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, one and all. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're still coming to you after 20-some-odd years, 28 years this year, from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and to find out about the other programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network. The website is xzbn.net, and we're coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and iHeartRadio. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Jeanne Van Bronkhorst. She is the author of Dreams at the Threshold, Guidance, Comfort, and Healing at the End of Life, published by our good friends at Llewellyn. She has graduate degrees in psychology and in social work, and has worked with people facing life-threatening illnesses for over 20 years, including 10 years as a hospice social worker. Her first book, Premonitions in Daily Life, which came out in 2013, has been translated into 4 languages. She is now working on a new book about how we can say goodbye to people we love at the end of her life. And at their life, I should say. She lives not that far from us, just down the road on the QEW in the beautiful city of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Jeanne, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
How did you get involved with the type of work that you do as a psychologist and a social worker?
I started out as a medical social worker. And I've always been interested in dreams, and so I just naturally kind of gravitated to asking people about dreams as I was working with them. And it was interesting to watch the conversations change as dreams came up. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I was working as a social worker in hospice in particular, there's so much that happens at the end of life. It's a hard time, and people are stressed, and there's a lot as a social worker that I'm doing to try and help them stay safe and sound at home. And with all that work, what sometimes gets lost, though, is the emotions of it and how people are coping. And I found that if I just ask them, how are your dreams doing these days? Mm-hmm. Or how are your dreams these days? People use that as a real invitation to talk about their spiritual lives and their emotional lives. And it was just this amazing opening that I found. Yeah, it just opened up these really intense, lovely conversations with people where they could talk about, my dreams have gotten harder as I'm facing, the idea that I might not be here. Or I had this wonderful dream about someone who came to help me, and I'm feeling like I'll be okay. Or I dreamed about my daughter and realized I haven't talked to her in a long time, and we need to talk again.
A wake-up call, so to speak.
Yeah. Some of the dreams were wake-up calls.
Wow.
Some of them were comforting, and some of them were just what I would call respite dreams, which are just dreams of, I went out flying last night, or I went out dancing last night, or just dreams to help people feel like they kind of remind them of who they've been and what's been important in their life.
Do you find that we as a culture are changing the way that we look at death?
Yeah, I think so. I think as the baby boomers get older, and I count myself as one of the younger ones, I think we are I think death and dying has really taken a huge shift in the last 30 years, partly because medical technology got so good, it was able to help us live longer than some people wanted to. And I think the whole Dying with Dignity movement has come up from that sense of we have to choose more than we ever have in the past. So there's a lot of differences.
Oh, can you tell me what a visitation dream is?
Yeah, those are really interesting. It's when people get close to the end of their lives, they tend to have more dreams of people that have known them and loved them who are already dead, who come to them in their dreams, and usually come for the purpose of helping them move on to the next life. So they're really fascinating. There have been a few studies on it. There's a lot of people that most of the studies that have been done about them have asked nurses and the doctors and family members kind of what have you heard your loved one talk about. But one study in particular that came out just a couple of years ago from Buffalo, they actually had researchers in the hospice, and they asked people to tell them their dreams. And they found that a good portion of them were having these visitation dreams of somebody coming to say, I'm here to help you.
To what do we attribute these dreams to? Is it the fact that the person knows that they're going to be dying soon and they are hoping that someone will meet them because they believe in their heart of hearts that there's more to life than we know it and the death process is just the next step to our own personal growth?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I have a real strong answer. I think that that's part of it, that people are preparing themselves for death and the dreams are helping them. I don't know how many people are looking for those dreams, though, as much as they're being surprised by them. Kind of a sense of my mother was here.
Right.
And so they take on kind of they become almost like visions. And I remember this when I was first working in the hospital. I walked into a woman's room and she was looking up at the ceiling and talking to somebody. And then she looked at me and we had our little conversation, and I kind of asked her who she was talking to, and she said nobody, and gave this kind of secret little smile. And as I walked out, I turned around and she was back talking to whoever that invisible person was again.
It's funny because most people, when you talk to them about people talking to other people, it seems to be okay when it's in the state or in the circumstance where somebody is getting ready to pass over. But people talk to their loved ones as well as their deity quite often. And, I don't think that this should be shunned on. I think that this should be an open expression. And, for example, people go to church, they pray, and that's talking. Many people pray and ask for guidance from those who have passed on the other side, and they're not getting ready to die. So do you think that society is at the point where we're going to grow, we're going to acknowledge that there is more to talking to, how can I best say it, talking to somebody that we cannot see or we cannot hear, but others can?
Yeah, I that would be amazing. I think we are... I don't know how quickly the culture will change to accept that, but I do know in grief and bereavement, for example, there used to be this thing about the experts would say, we're going to help you try and let go of your loved one and move on with your life. But what they found is that the people who hold on and feel connected and continue talking to their loved one do just fine. Yeah. And they actually do better with their grief. So there have been some wonderful studies showing that there was a man who had been married for 65 years and he was still puttering that around the house and talking to his wife after she died. And he said, she always listened to me, so why wouldn't she listen now? And feeling that connection to last beyond death really helped him cope. So it's a mixed bag.
It is. It is. Are there any similarities between the people who have these visitation dreams? I don't mean their age or because they're in a hospital and they know that they're going to be leaving this reality to the next any time. But is there any difference, any similarities in the religious beliefs, in the ethnic grooming of this person?
Oh, no, there doesn't seem to be. They do know that, especially in Western culture, where we tend to be less religiously oriented, that the visitors tend to be relatives and people that they know and trust and have been loved by. In other cultures where there's a stronger religious component, then visitors are sometimes more like religious figures. The religious figures, they always show up, though, within the context of the person's life. So you're not going to find a Buddhist see Jesus or a Christian see Allah. It's more that people kind of fit within the religious, spiritual beliefs that they have.
All right, stand by. You and I have to take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes at X Zone. This is the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We're talking to our special guest this hour, Jeanne Van Bronkhorst. And we'll be back on the other side as we continue discussing her book, Dreams at the Threshold, here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Gwilda Wiyaka's latest book, The Science of Magic, Book of Mysteries, Volume 1, is the first book in a series based on her writings that open every episode of the Science of Magic radio show. Drawing on the subject matter of each guest, and armed with over 40 years' experience in shamanism, 35 years in alternative health, and degrees in psychology and religious studies, Gwilda introduces relevant and leading-edge information that supports spiritual evolution and personal empowerment. Rich with wisdom and inspirational quotes packaged in digestible segments, this is a book that will pull you from cover to cover. It will also serve as a daily inspirational reading for years to come. The Science of Magic Book of Mysteries, Volume 1 is available at our website, tsompublications.com, amazon.com, and wherever fine books are sold.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking to Jeanne Van Bronkhorst about her new book. It's entitled Dreams at the Edge of Threshold, Guidance, Comfort, and Healing at the End of Life, published by our good friends at Llewellyn, and her website is www.jeannevanbronkhorst.com. What has been the reviews or the comments that you've received about your book from people who deal in the point where people die?
It's actually been pretty positive.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple of good reviews from the International Hospice and Palliative Care Association, and the reviewer there said it felt like it was a piece of the jigsaw puzzle for the end-of-life care kind of coming into place. So the book tends to be for both people who are dying and for their families. It's written for the general, of course, the general reader, rather than the professional.
Right. Why do you think dreams play such an important part in the end of life process?
I think because it's such an amazingly difficult, challenging time. We only do it once that we're aware of. Mm-hmm. And we don't get a lot of experience with it. And I think just as dreams can help us throughout life, when we're facing big challenges and big stressors, dreams come to the fore, I think, to help us navigate through those waters.
What do we know about the physiology behind a dream?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but there's been more dream research just in the last couple of decades, mm-hmm. and mostly coming out of the sleep laboratories. So as we learn more about why we sleep and what sleep is for, it's becoming more clear how dreams help us cognitively, help us with learning, help us kind of hold on to experiences. So there's a fair amount of research that's out there about it. I don't know. I can talk about it very well, though.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the difference between a visitation dream and the hallucinations that we hear about?
Oh, yeah. Because hallucinations do happen at the end of life, too, mm-hmm. especially when people are on some of the heavy-duty pain medications. Sometimes they can cause hallucinations, and there are several diseases that can cause hallucinations as well. But there's a pretty particular difference between those and the visitation dreams and visions that I was talking about earlier. Hallucinations tend to be pretty meaningless, random things that people see, and often they're really pretty disorienting and confusing. People might see bugs crawling up the wall. People with some kinds of dementia will see little children running through the rooms or small animals running around. Mm-hmm. But these animals and children don't interact with them, and they're not animals that they know or people that they know. So it has this real sense of disorientation, and people feel really quite distressed by them. Whereas the visitations are almost uniformly of people that not just that they know and love, but they are seeing the people when they loved them or when they had the strongest connection. So someone might see, an 80-year-old woman might see her parents, but she would see her parents as they looked when she was younger and in needing of their care. Mm-hmm. See them so much as they are when they were at the end of their lives. So they show up kind of strong and healthy, and they show up as kind of their best selves. They don't bring any of the old family conflicts or fights or the stuff that can happen between people. All of that seems to have just gone away, and their presence has this kind of sense of love and comfort and wanting to help this person move on to the next place.
Do all dreams mean the same thing to people when they're dying, or do the dreams vary in their meanings?
Oh yeah, they vary. They vary just as almost as much as they do when as for the rest of our lives. I think most of us kind of develop as we age. We develop our own little dream language. So I know, like when I dream of water, it means a particular thing for me that it might not mean for somebody else. But when we face the stressors of dying, those challenges will bring up some dreams that have things in common, like the visitation dreams, and journey dreams also become more common at the end of life. And that's where someone will start dreaming of that I'm moving, or I'm packing, or I'm waiting to get on a train, or I'm on an airplane. One woman talked about being on a cruise that she went on and came back the next day and was very excited by it. So they have there's those kind of commonalities as people prepare to leave without really knowing how to leave.
To go on that big cruise that is a one-way sailing trip.
Yeah. That woman in particular, she was a hoot. She had a lot of different caregivers helping her in the end of her life, and she kind of went through them like Kleenex for a while there, kind of training them and getting mad at them and firing them. And so when she went on the cruise, she had a good time. She was telling me about it, and I said, well, what happened on the other side? She said, well, I came back because my cruise director, everybody had their own cruise director, and mine was new and she needed training, and so I came back in order to train her up a little bit.
Wow.
I thought, that sounds like you. That was pretty fun.
So how do you ask about dreams if you don't know what they mean?
Well, you follow the lead of the person who is talking to you. So I don't tend to interpret dreams for people because, well, for a lot of reasons, but I think the main one is that the dream and the dream meaning really does belong to the dreamer. And we each do have our own language, and so it's important not to put an interpretation on it. So with my friend who had went on the cruise,
yeah.
I asked her about the cruise. I asked her what she did and what it was like. I asked her kind of why she came back, and she explained that. And the only thing I said about it after that was, well, I hope next time you go that you get to go with somebody who, has been well trained. And she got kind of excited. Do you think I'll go again? I said, I don't see why not. She died about a week later.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah, and it was just, and I hope she did get another cruise. But it's just really not a time to try and tell people they mean something other than what they mean. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, can you explain that?
Yeah, I think the end of life is so, again, it's so rich and so challenging. And the dreams become so vivid and so rich in themselves that they really don't need a big interpretation. They just need someone willing to listen and to let the person explore the dreams as they will. And the most I've ever done is if they've said, I just don't know what this means, I'll just say, well, what does it remind you of? And what were your emotions in it? And what does it remind you of? And just let it be that.
Interesting. Do you use a dream dictionary?
Myself, I don't. I know there are a lot of dream dictionaries out there. They all kind of come from the same place. I think the first one was somewhere in ancient Greece, and somebody wrote down a dream dictionary, and they've been using some of those same symbols ever since. But because I think we each develop our own kind of shorthand for what our experience means, they can be useful to give ideas, but they get in the way if we start thinking that the dictionary knows more about our lives than we do.
Plus, if you were to compare dream dictionaries, they differ.
Do they?
They differ.
Yeah.
So how can you with any certainty use a dream dictionary when there's so many interpretations for the same dream? in all of these different books as well as on the internet. So who do you know? What do you do? Who do you trust?
Maybe try 4 or 5 of them and see if any of them fit with your experience. You can have a little aha. Oh, yeah, that is what it means.
But isn't that trying to make a jigsaw puzzle and you're missing that final piece and you end up trying to get any other piece in there that will make it look like it's working? Or do you just, I don't know if I agree with that.
I think that's the risk you take in using the dream dictionaries, is that you start trying to mold your experience into what the theory is. So I don't like them for that, but I don't tell people never use them.
Well, of course not.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. Just say use 2 or 3 and see where the differences lie.
All right, stand by. You and I have to take our break with the news at the bottom of the hour. And we'll be back talking about dreams. Dreams when you're at the threshold of that next unknown reality that each and every one of us will one day take. You have to look at life and say, this is very funny. The moment you are conceived is the moment you start to die. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond. You're watching the X-Zone Broadcast Network. www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com.
That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Jeanne Van Bronkhorst is our special guest, www, and I'm going to spell the website for you, JeanneVanBronkhorst.com. And we're talking about her new book entitled, do you have your pencils and paper ready? Yeah, remember those things we used to use way back when? Well, try them now because they're a great way to remember things. Dreams at the Threshold. Guidance, Comfort, and Healing at the End of Life, published by our good friends at Llewellyn. What was the hardest part for you as an author in writing this book?
The writing. I had to learn how to write, which... I
learned that in school.
Yeah, I learned it in school. It's so different writing for a real audience who, they're expecting to get some of their money's worth. So it's finding the way to write, and it took a long time. My first book took many years to get my thoughts in order and put them in a format that was going to be interesting for people to read. And fortunately, I had a friend who was an editor who helped a lot. She looked at that first book and she said, "This is great. Let's start over."
The great words from great editors. Yeah. Do we here in Canada look at the dying process differently than they do in other parts of the world?
In what way? I don't know that it's that different. I think.
Well, let's look at it this way.
What are you thinking?
When somebody dies in Ireland, they don't have a grieving process at the end. They have a party. They celebrate the person's life. It's called an Irish wake.
The Irish wake, yeah.
So why doesn't the rest of society follow that idea? I think it's a great idea when you actually, instead of mourning the loss of the person, celebrate their life.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Some people are starting to do living funerals too, which is like having a memorial party with the person who's still alive and gathering people and sharing stories and saying prayers and having a big farewell.
Well, we do that here at home. It's called a barbecue.
Yeah. You could do a barbecue.
Yeah, except, we don't look at it as, a prelude to somebody dying. We look at it as living today and living our life together as it should be, because you're here for a good time. You're not here for a long time. Yeah,
no, that's true. Yeah. Well, I had a friend, she was dying, and she had a party, and she asked people, she knew where she was going, that she was going to have time to meet with other people who had died. Mm-hmm. So she had people write down messages that they wanted her to pass along to their deceased loved ones. It was such an interesting idea. And people did. People wrote down all kinds of messages that she was going to take with her.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard of that before.
I don't know. I think we all can. I think the culture is big enough for all kinds of ways of doing this.
What about nightmares?
Yeah, there are nightmares. I think at the end of life, the nightmares actually change and become more comforting, which is a relief. A lot of people have found that even people who started out with terrible, terrible nightmares of being dismembered or people walking away from them saying there's no hope, by the end of their life they're having dreams that bring them a lot of hope, with flowers and again visitations, people that they love being there with them. But I think about nightmares in particular, just throughout our lives, they tend to be well, there's a lot of different reasons for them. Something that's sometimes it's just a wake up. Mm-hmm. Things aren't going as well as you want them to. Sometimes they're prodding us to do something new. Sometimes they're just us trying to kind of process through some strong emotions that we didn't want to acknowledge or think about too much when we were awake. And they come back to haunt us at night.
When you're talking to patients about their dreams, do you find out that your interest in their dreams actually creates more dreams that they have? Or are they just more cognizant of their dreams?
Yeah, I think people get more cognizant. I think as we talk about our dreams and think about them, we are training our brains to remember our dreams and put them into kind of a meaningful context.
Let me ask you this. As the lady who was writing the dream book, have your dreams changed since writing this book?
Yeah. Actually, since I started talking about and writing about dreams, my dreams have become more vivid. And they still are pretty much connected to my daily life. I take the dream continuity theory, which says that oftentimes what we're dreaming about is that our dreams are one way of us kind of processing our day.
Right.
And some of our deeper emotions as well. They don't have to be just day-to-day emotions. But I take it as it's my brain and my heart kind of figuring out what I want for my life. And this is one way of doing it. So, yeah, I have great dreams. And they come and go. I think like most people, they kind of wax and wane over time. When I spend more time talking about them and thinking about them, then I will remember them more. Yeah.
How does your dream book help those who are left behind and who are going to go through the grieving process?
Yeah. I think dreams are really valuable in that mourning process as well. And these visitation dreams that I was talking about, they actually can show up as well for the mourners. In fact, I talked to a couple of grief therapists, grief counselors, who said that sometimes they have people come to them because they want a visitation dream, because they want that dream badly and they can't figure out how to have that. And the counselors will help them kind of get ready to have a visitation dream and help them figure out how to ask for that and how to pay attention to those. But I think dreams, grief dreams, can really run the gamut from being kind of nightmarish, exploring how deep the grief is, and they can be comforting, showing the person that we love is all right. So they kind of run the whole gamut.
During doing the research for your book, as well as talking to people, both who are patients and the members of their family, have you had an opportunity to meet with these people after the death of their dear loved ones? And if so, have they talked to you about any dreams in which the departed one has communicated with them in the dream state?
Yeah. I haven't done that, but I did. I interviewed, like I said, two grief counselors who did that, who actually, they were working with people in grief who would have a visitation dream and feel like the difference between dreaming about somebody and waking up and saying, oh, I just dreamed about my mother and I was remembering her, and, it kind of reminded me of what I miss about her, is one thing. But waking up and knowing that you saw your mother, that she was there, that there's this sense of vivid recall to it and this sense of realness to it that puts it into another level. And the grief counselors both said that for people in grief, that strong visitation dream does a lot to help people feel more settled in their grieving process. That there's this visceral sense that my loved one is okay. Is this a dream that is generated by the person who's grieving? Is this something that we all have within us? It's an inherent part of our physiology? Or does that person really come to visit them in a dream? That's great. I I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way, because when the grief counselors were talking, it was clear that they could help people have these dreams.
Right.
By imagining who they wanted to see and what they wanted to have happen, and by training themselves to remember their dreams and paying attention to that in the morning, that they could gather a space, kind of clear an emotional space for a dream like that to happen. But at the same time, it also, when that dream happens, it feels more like a gift of a true visit from someone beyond just me imagining it. There's such a difference between dreaming about somebody and dreaming with somebody. And that sense of being with somebody in your dreams it's very powerful.
You and I have to take our final break for this hour. First of all, Jeanne, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's great talking to you, and I'm sure that your book has touched many a hearts, and I'm sure you get thanked a lot for the great work that you're doing.
Enough. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, you're going to get one right now as well to add on that. So thank you so much for the wonderful work that you do. Because my wife worked in the palliative cares wards of hospitals, and you guys are angels. You really are. You and I will be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And don't forget, if you'd like to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, go to www.xzbn.net. And don't forget, the X Zone TV show is on Simul TV at www.simultv.com. Don't go away.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Our guest this hour is Jeanne Van Bronkhorst. She's the author of Dreams at the Threshold, Guidance, Comfort, and Healing at the End of Life, published by our good friends at Llewellyn. And her website is www.jeannevanbronkhorst.com. Jeanne, are there any stories that you can share with us about some of the people that you spoke to, about the dreams that they had and how their dreams affected the remainder of their lives?
Oh, yeah. I think one of my favorite stories is from a friend of mine whose father was very ill. And his father was a very quiet man who worked by himself and didn't spend a lot of time with friends outside of his immediate family. And he got a particular kind of cancer that just wreaked havoc in his brain, and within months he was in a nursing home was not able to be home and was just really suffering. And people tried to visit him, and it was hard because he wasn't lucid very much, and when he was lucid he was just really depressed and really upset at being where he was. And then one day his wife visited him, and he kind of smiled at her and said, "Hey, last night I went dancing." And her first thought was to say, "Well, no, you didn't." "I know you didn't go dancing." But she thought about it, and she asked him about it, and he didn't talk about it like it was a dream. He talked about it like this is what happened, that he went dancing, and he went out with her, and he went out with friends, and they went out to dinner afterwards, and she talked about it with the nursing staff, and they decided that rather than trying to reorient him back to this terrible place where he was, that they would let him talk about his experiences. And it opened up. For 6 months, he had adventure after adventure at night, and people came back, and his friends came in to talk to him because all of a sudden he was telling these wonderful stories. One night he went hiking. One night he went skydiving. One night he went dancing a lot. He went out to dinner a lot. He went to the circus once. And it gave him a way to feel like he had this exciting life and something for him to talk about and a way for people to come back and connect with him and share this experience with him. And it was this 6 months of reprieve for him and his family. And they never once tried to talk him out of it.
Wow.
And his wife she just kind of shook her head and said, "He's having a better life than I am. I just go home and go to sleep. I'm exhausted by the end of the day." And he's having this amazing life for 6 months.
There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
There just isn't, And so I start the book with that because it's not about making the dreams be real in kind of a verifiable sense. It's really looking at the pragmatics of how do these help us? How do these give us the best life we can have? And as we work through the book, it becomes more clear. It does move into a spiritual aspect, and I do feel like my job is to help support people in whatever they believe for the afterlife. And if they're dreaming of angels, great. If they're dreaming of their mother, that's wonderful. If they're having terrible dreams, we'll try and make them better. But any way that our dreams can help us live through the end of life with a sense of security is just graceful. It just is a way of being touched by grace, I think.
Do the people who are members of the family of those who are in hospices or in other institutions waiting for the end of time, do they find that their dreams change, and are their dreams of comfort to them?
Yeah, I think like with everything, the dreams are pretty individualized, but family members will have grief dreams before somebody died. Or I've talked to people who had journey dreams where they weren't journeying, but they were watching the person they loved packing, and they were watching the person they loved go stand in line. So I think there's all kinds of ways we are, as family members and as loved ones, we are participating in this event, and our dreams are one way that we can sort out those big feelings without overwhelming the people during the day. Yeah.
You know, based on your experience and your expertise in this field, how have you seen the hospice change the final days for people?
I think hospice can be a really wonderful thing. I've worked in several of them, and I've volunteered in several of them, and I really like the hospice philosophy of helping people live as fully and richly as they can for as long as they can. And I think it's done a tremendous service for people, and I think it's still underutilized. There's a lot of people who don't use it. It's scary to say I'm done trying to fix this and I'm ready for comfort care only. But the people who are able to do that, they have what I would call a good deaths. As much as you can have that, there's more peace and there's more comfort. There's more time to settle affairs. There's more control.
Plus, the patient who is at the hospice has a greater support group with them than at another, let's say, another hospital or another location.
Yeah.
In your opinion, is it better for a person to pass in a hospice or to pass at home?
Oh, it really depends on how people are doing. Most people who use hospice die at home, with palliative care people coming to their home and providing the symptom relief and the pain relief. And I think most people like that, but sometimes it's not possible. And so hospice can go to where people are as well, in long-term care or in inpatient hospice units. Just depends on how much physical care they need and who's available to help.
Tell me about your next book.
Oh, my next book, I'm writing about how we say goodbye at the end of life, because it's so hard to do. And there are a number of books out there that talk about kind of what to expect when someone's dying in terms of the physical medical event, but not a lot out there on kind of the emotional event that this is. And so I'm writing a book about, why it's important to say goodbye, what goodbye consists of, what makes it so hard, and how people have gone about doing it anyway. It's good. I'm right in the thick of it right now, so I'm still kind of thinking and feeling my way through it.
Your first book was entitled Premonitions in Daily Life.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Oh, that was my first book. I wrote about that because I was interested in people and having these premonitions where a premonition is when you know what's going to happen next and you can't figure out how you knew it. And they're really, even looking back, there's no way to say this information came from something else. So how do people make sense of these pretty vivid, powerful experiences in a culture that says we're not sure it exists? So it's a lot about helping people trust their own experience and trust that premonitions are real enough that you can actually look at your experience and question it kick the tires a little bit and see what you want to do about it.
What was your conclusion about what a premonition was?
Premonitions are these, again, vivid experiences that can either come in dreams or they come kind of out of the blue. There's this sense of knowing with a certainty that you can't explain of what's coming next. And then it happens, and you kind of watch the world turn until all of a sudden you're seeing in daily life the very thing that you dreamed about or imagined happening without really any support for that, right?
Gotcha.
So what do you do with it?
Jeanne, you and I have to say so long for tonight, but what I'd like you to do before we say so long is to let our listeners know where they can find out more about you, as well as tell them where they can buy a copy of either one of your books.
Yeah, that'd be great. JeanneVanBronkhorst.com is my website. And the books are both through Llewellyn, so you can either get them at Llewellyn or at bookstores. You should be able to, if they're not on the shelf, you can order them easily. Or, of course, online, which a lot of people do. They are ebooks as well as hard copy books. They were a joy to write. And, yeah. That's what I know.
All right, Jeanne, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. So until then, take care of yourself, and thank you for the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you. It was a true pleasure.
You take care of yourself now. All right, X Zone Nation, I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center just down the road from where Jeanne is in Toronto. We're in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. We'll be back.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.